Hey there, all you cool cats out there. It's time for math. Today's topic is long division, and we're going to cover our anchor chart for our long division today. Before we do that, let's go ahead and create or talk about the different parts of a division problem. Let's look at 358 divided by 7 equals our quotient. Right? Our answer, our question, let's create a little variable here. Y. We can also write it in a different way, which is what we're going to do today. 358 divided by 7 is going to give our quotient here. So our answer, or our Y, or our question, is going to be at the top. Let's go ahead and label the parts of this before we move on. Okay, first part we have is our largest number here, and that is called our dividend. Dividend ends with the word end. Dividend, and the dividend is the number that's going to be divided by another number. So our dividend is often that larger number, 358, and starts here at 358. Okay, so our dividend is our larger number. The next one that we have, let's pull a different color here, see the difference here, is our divisor. And our divisor is often that one that's coming out here. Like I kind of like to think about it as a visor. It's the one that's sort of hanging out there, the one where they're covering. Our divisor is the number that we're going to be dividing into another number. So let's add that in here. Divisor. So our divisor here, in this case, is 7 in the second part there. All right. And then we have, let's move on to the next one. Our Y, I think I already said it, in this case, is our quotient. That is our answer. Okay. So our quotient is always going to be the answer to a division problem right here and right here. Notice that this quotient is lined up correctly. Okay, we do have one more part to do a division problem. Does anybody know about it? Anyone? All right, let's go with, if we have here what we call a remainder of a number, okay? And the remainder is what's left over. So we're going to go ahead and see our remainder today is right here after our quotient. Okay, perfect. On we go. So let's go ahead and actually solve this problem. And we're going to use our little key or our little reminder that we used in class this year. So let's take a look at this. We have here 358. We're going to divide it by the divisor of 7. Now, let's take a moment here and remind ourselves of our little acronym. Does anybody remember? D, M, right? Do we know this one? S, got it? C, and B. Do you remember it? Does McDonald's sell cheese? Burgers, yes, I know, it sounds silly. Does McDonald's sell cheese burgers? Right, it's a silly sentence, but it helps us to remember these D, M, S, C, B. So let's go ahead and make a note of what those mean. Our D means that we are going to start by dividing. Okay, we move on to then multiply. RS, did you say it? Are you with me? Subtract. C, we're going to check our number, and we'll talk about that as we solve early here. And finally, B, in most cases, we're going to bring down to start it all over again. Okay, so let's keep this here as our little tidbit of help. All right, that's our little star. Okay, so we have here 358 divided by 7. So let's start. We're going to come over here to our thing, our little acronym, and we're going to start with dividing. So let me grab a number. Here, let's go with red because that's nice and easy. So right here, we have to ask ourselves, divide can we make a 7, or can we make a 7 out of 3? We cannot do that, right? So that's not going to work. So if we have 3 of something, if I have 3 markers, I cannot make 7 out of that. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a 0. And I'm going to put this step in here so that you can, again, get the practice of using this strategy. So nope, we cannot make 7 out of 3. So we're going to put our 0 up here to begin our quotient. So we divided. That means that there are no groups of 7 in 3. So 0. So we divided. Next one, we multiply. We're going to multiply across. 0 times 7 is going to be what? 0, right? So 0 times 7 is 0. What are we going to do now? We're going to subtract. We're going to subtract what we have here. 3 minus 0 is 3. We're going to check. Is 3 less than 7? It is. So now our last one is bring down. And now we're going to bring down the 5, and now we're going to start the process all over again. So this arrow here is really important because it really helps us to keep these numbers and these digits lined up correctly. You can do that on lined paper, and you can turn it sideways so that you're looking at that lined paper, but remember to really bring in that arrow. When we get into larger dividends, it takes a long time, and this becomes very long, and those arrows are really important. Let's start the next process with a different color. Let's go with this one since it's out here. Okay, so now let's go back to divide. How many 7s in 35? Oh, I feel like that goes evenly. Yeah, let me think here. I know my multiplication. Oh, I do. Amazing. So I know that 7 times 5 is 35. So I know that I could make 5 groups of 7 in 35. So I'm going to go ahead and put this over here because look, I'm looking at 35. That means I'm going to go directly above that. So I'm going to put my 5 here now. And my 5, so I divided. That means if I have 35 and I divide it into 7 groups, I'm going to get 5 in each group. So I divided. Next thing I do, multiply 5 times 7, and I'm going to pull it right down here. 5 times 7 is 35. Super. Now I'm going to subtract. Well, I'm going to subtract. Oh, 35 minus 35. Well, that's clearly an easy 0. I'm going to check. Is my 0 less than my divisor? Is 0 less than 7? Absolutely is. So I'm pretty good. My check is good. And now I can bring down my next number here. So I'm going to go ahead, bring down that 8. Notice I'm going straight down so I can remind my brain that my 8 goes here. Perfect. And now where do I go? Back up to the top. Let's get our next color. Where are we at? Let's go with, how about this one, orange? Okay. So here we are. Let's go back to divide. Now I'm going to divide down here. Okay, I'm looking here, just right here, just like this before with the 35. I'm doing it the 8. How many 7s in 8? You know that, right? If you have 7, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. If I have 8 of these, here's 8 markers. How many 7s can I make? 1 group of 7, and I have 1 left over. So 1 group of 7, so that means 1 is going to go in my quotient. That's my dividing. What do I do next? Multiply. 1 times 7 is 7. I'm going to go ahead and subtract what I have left here. 8 minus 7 is 1. I'm going to check. Is 1 less than 7? Is 1 less than my divisor? Yes, it is. Perfect. And I'm going to bring down. Uh-oh. Doesn't look like I can bring anything down. So I'm going to actually stop there. That means that I am ready to move on to my last step that only happens once in in many of your division problems. What do I do now with this 1? I'm going to bring it all the way up. Let's pull this one here. I'm going to bring this one all the way up right here. Let's go ahead and do that. Actually, let's arrow that up this time. Okay? So we should bring down, and we should also slash up as a little star there. Because that, in the very end, that's what you're going to do. You're going to bring it up. And then this becomes my remainder of 1. So my quotient here ends up to be 51 remainder of 1. Now, I'm going to take a moment, just a quick moment here, and I'm going to do a little check. Does anybody know how to check it? We're going to check our answer here, okay? And if we check our answer, since the inverse of division is, that's right, multiplication. Since the inverse of division is multiplication, what we can do now is multiply our quotient times our divisor to see if we can get this dividend. We got to remember, though, that we're going to have to add in that remainder later. So what we see here is 51 and 7. So let's go ahead and multiply that. Oops, that's 7. Okay, let's go with here. Let's go 51 times 7. So let's multiply that. And just like in our anchor chart that we did for multiplication, we can do this. We're going to take our 7, which is our multiplier, and 7 times 1 is 7. And then we're going to take our 7 over by our 5, and we're going to get 7 times 5 is 35. Uh-oh, I have 357 and 358 here. What went wrong? That's right. I forgot that I have a remainder. So I have this remainder, this leftover, and leftover, we just got to add it in. So we're going to add in our 1, add in our remainder, and we end up with 358, which is our dividend, and we are right. We know that we're right. It always feels good to know that we're right. Exactly. Okay, so let us know if you have any questions. Make your own anchor chart. Share it with me. I would love to see your anchor charts, and have an amazing day with your division.